And once you get the timing cover cleaned off, and dried off, the sealing surfaces are dried off with some brake cleaner. This is a new water pump. New replacement water pump. It's an aftermarket pump. It actually came with a paper gasket instead of a metal one. First thing I want to do is compare it to the original. Make sure it's a reasonable facsimile. And the vent hole will go to the top and the sweep hole will go on the bottom. The big hole, it should have had a freeze plug looking cap in it or something, which I don't know. This has a freeze plug cap in it. I guess that one does. That's where it was leaking from. But they look. So what I want to do is degrease this surface and put a bead of black silicone on it. Lay the paper gasket on it, and then I'm going to put a layer of silicone on the block and then stick the pump on there in the right orientation with the vent hole facing up and the weep hole facing down. Then the 10mm bolts, I'm going to put silicone on them. I don't know if they're in the water jacket or not, but the factory had siliconed them, so I'm going to go ahead and redo it. And they tighten down to 88 inch-pounds. I'm using RTV black. Just make sure it's fresh and not expired and won't set up. It won't do you any good if it's old. Make sure your gasket's fairly flat before you put it on. Now the silicone the engine block, or you could silicone the gasket. The reason why I silicone is to impermeate the paper gasket with silicone so it won't, the antifreeze won't weep through it over time. And if there's any imperfections, it'll help level it in the sealing surface. I took an air hose and blew out all of the 10mm headed bolt holes that hold the water pump down too before I siliconed them. And blew any antifreeze or brake cleaner out of the holes. Now I put all the 10mm bolts in the water pump. I just need to tighten them down to 88 inch-pounds. Once your bolts are tightened down, make sure there isn't any clearance issue with the impeller and the timing cover. No noise. I don't hear any noise, so must be in good shape. Vent holes to the top, weep holes to the bottom. I took some brake cleaner and a rag and rotated these pulleys by hand and cleaned all the old belt antifreeze out of the grooves. Keep from ruining the new belt or making noise, squealing. I'm going ahead and install the water pump pulley. I'm setting the bolts to 100 inch-pounds. This is a new drive belt. Comparable length to the original. Just have to remember that I have to fish the back side of the belt around the tensioner pulley first, so that it can go head back to the crank pulley and so forth. Just turn the belt kind of inside out and fish it around that tensioner pulley. The bottom shoots out around the crankshaft. It comes out the bottom to the air conditioner with the teeth facing in. The back side is wrapped around the tensioner pulley. It comes off the tensioner pulley and shoots across and down to the power steering pump. From the power steering pump up to the water pump. And once it comes off the air conditioner, it goes around this idler pulley and down to the alternator after you take the tension off the tensioner. You slip it on the alternator or put it on the alternator and slip it to the idler pulley, either way. Like that. Make sure all the belt grooves are down into the pulleys and not riding up on one of them, especially the crankshaft. And keep them as centered as possible on these idler pulleys so they won't feed off on startup. And it's time to put the engine mount back on. These 3 engine mount bracket bolts, torqued to 74 foot-pounds. These 3 and this one, 46 foot-pounds, and these 2 on the one on each side, 73 foot-pounds. Reinstall your air cleaner. Now it's time to put the antifreeze in it. This uses Dexacool. I'm going to be using my airlift system. It pulls a vacuum on the system and displaces the vacuum with antifreeze, so there's no air in the system. But you can just fill this reservoir full of antifreeze and start it up. It's not too complicated. It won't get airlocked. It's got a good air bleed on it. There's not too many problems with just pouring antifreeze in it and filling it up. This is just less of a mess. Spilling antifreeze everywhere. You just hook the line up here and let it draw it in until it fills it up, and you're home in time for cornflakes. So I'm going to do that, and hopefully that's all that needs done to it. I will have to hook a scan tool and take the engine out of protect mode though. I'm going to check it for random misfires. If there's any random misfires in the computer, more than likely one of the heads is cracked, getting water in it, causing that. But I could have done that at any time. But it was going to need a water pump whether it needs a head or not, so I started with a water pump first. Alright, it's running. I went ahead and put my pressure tester on there so I can watch and see how much pressure the system builds up. just in case there is some other type of trouble. If it's got a head problem, that gauge will start climbing pretty fast. If not, it should stay alright. Got the reservoir about half full. The belt looks like it's running in line good. I'm going to hook a scan tool up and take it out of that protect mode where the engine's overheated, I suspect. All the sand hood's up now, but I'll get in there and see if there's any misfires in the history. Well, it does have a random misfire in the cylinder, a 6 misfire. Or it did have. That could be a problem, or it could be a result of it overheating. I don't know. It's not building any pressure on the system yet. Let's see if it materializes into something or not. Just run it. I usually like to have the heater on, rev it up a few times to make sure it circulates good. That way, if you got heat in here, you know it's circulating good and there's no air in the system. Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Well, it's been running for 10 minutes, no wild pressures. I've accelerated a few times. If you accelerate one that's got a problem, that's the best way to build pressure up in the cooling system if it's under load. Only got about 3 pounds on it. I put a pound on it just so I could measure. So it's only put 2 pounds on it in 10 minutes. That ain't bad. Who knows? Maybe when it's superheated, number 6 had an open up place, whether it was warped or cracked, and at reasonable temperatures it won't do that, or not enough to for right now, but that may change. We'll see what happens, I guess, over time. It'll be an interesting test subject. I'll monitor it, see what happens.